Greetings and salutations, Pokemon fans. We are back with more fantastic action from the Black and White Smogon Premier League. We're in the last week, and I believe both of these players are on teams that could still qualify, so both really want to win this game for to get closer to winning the week and thus to qualify for the semifinals. And we are looking at SoulWind against Ox the Fox. Ox played last week as well, and he won. Played pretty well too against Star Master, so I'm not surprised to see him back in. And SoulWind, I don't remember what he if he won or lost last week. I've seen this guy play like hundreds of games, so I'm kind of a blur for me. But yeah, let's rather look at teams. So we have pretty standard-ish Hippoclef spikes, the more offensive version, I would call it, from Ox, and SoulWind has a pretty standard rain team. This is Big Six, basically, right? Except there's Starmie over Tentacle, but at this point, Big Six probably has Starmie over Tentacle anyway, in the collective consciousness, so let's call it Big Six for to simplify my life at least. Okay, so this is a very hard game for SoulWind. Looking at the preview, one is got at least two mons that are completely walled by Jellicent, and those being Politoed and Keldeo. I mean, Politoed can toxicate, I guess, but here's the kicker. Even if Jellicent is toxic, it still walls Keldeo forever. On this build, it's almost always Scarf Keldeo. You kind of need it to be Scarf Keldeo, and the reason being, else you instantly lose to Life Orb Zam. Life Orb Zam squads are quite weak to Scarf Keldeo Rain. If you look, for example, at the main sample team, which is Ferro, Rotom, Titar, Zam, Latios, and Landorus, like once Ferrothorn is like Ferrothorn and Rotom are prone to take a lot of damage early game, and then Scarf Keldeo kind of cleans because Zam dies in one, and so you are left with Latios, but Scarf Latios doesn't really want to switch into Keldeo Rain to put it mildly, and so you can out pressure at least. Problem then becomes that Jellicent just walls Keldeo to hell and back, even while toxic, because Scarf Keldeo, like this type of rain teams need Scarf Keldeo with HPIs for, say, Dragonite. LSDD Knight is quite strong into this, especially the Ice Punch superpower variants. And so that makes you just do zero damage to Jellicent no matter what. Like Jellicent, even toxic at like 40%, can switch into you, and that's very sad. Although you can get rocks up and there's no spinner, so with a couple of doubles, it's very doable. Uh, Thundurus can also be quite annoying for this team, obviously, depending on the set. Grass not obviously very strong. Nasty Plot, very dangerous for this, because your first line of defense is like Clef and Hippo, and neither of them can take on Nasty Plot Thundurus, that's for sure. Grass Knot also annihilates Hippo, and Focus Blast is very strong into Clef as well. Although you can outplay it by dancing a bit around it with Latios, Zam. You have to out offense it basically. Okay, so how do you win if you're SoulWind? You get spikes up and then click the funny buttons. How do you win if you're Ox the Fox? You get spikes up and click the funny buttons. And so the question becomes, who has the funnier buttons? And I'm going to say Ox the Fox does, because he's got Alakazam, and I say zero Alakazam answers. If this is Life Orb especially, this is just very impossible, almost impossible. Although it depends on the set, right? If it's Fire Grass, then if you manage to win the Weather War, or at least have Rain up when Alakazam comes out, then you can sort of deal with it with Feral plus stuff. But if Sand is up and or there's a couple layer spikes, Ferrothorn will mega die. And so I'm giving Ox the Fox a pretty big advantage, but It depends on a couple of sets from SoulWind side. Again, Tundrus being the main one, but even just Specs Latios is not the best for rocks to deal with. That said, if this is Specs Latios, I would personally lead with it and Trictor one. So if you trick Hippo, that's fine, good even, because makes opponent a lot weaker into Thunderous, for example. If your opponent switches to Clef, they start struggling a bit into Starmie, right? And you don't really need specs this game anyway. It's nice damage, but if you trick one of the two alpha walls that are there, then it's functionally the same, right? Okay, so I lead Latios and Trick if I'm SoulWind. I'm assuming it's specs. If it's Scarf Latios and not non-Scarf Keldeo, it's a bit dicier, I think. But it's still winnable. But you definitely do not lead Latios if it's Scarf. Because if you give away your Scarf, then you lose to Akazam. Like you can type GG and leave. And so don't do it. Ox, you probably lead Hippo. And if your opponent is Latios, you have to hard Clef. If you get tricked, though, do you beat Starmie? Yeah, sure, yeah, that's fine. Even if your Clef gets tricked, that's okay. Now, if your Clef gets Draco Meteor, that's a bit less okay, but it's still okay, actually. You can just go back to Hippo, and then SoulWind has to read it and immediately go Clef on the Politoed on the Clef, which is actually his best play, so maybe not, never mind. Hold on a second, I'm trying to think this through. Okay, so I lead Hippodon, opponent leads Latios. I go Skarmory, because Skarmory is useless this game, right? If I get Draco Meteor, cool, whatever. If I get tricked, probably the best guy to absorb trick. Yeah, there's a Ferrothorn here, kind of annoying, but whatever. Right, so I lead the Hippodon and I lead Latios. And neither player agrees with me. And so we get a Ferrothorn getting HP fired to specs HP fired to 1. Oh boy. Okay. So if you're solving here, you see specs Latios, so you assume it's such jam. Right. Such jam is annoying, but a lot of your guys can tank one move. Problem now is that Ferrothorn is dead. He's as good as dead. Do you go Polito here? You have to. Thundurus. Okay, this is a good one actually. And you are Focus Blast misses? Of course, it's Focus Blast. Anchor. Anchor was in case of Plot actually. No, Plot is a good play. I approve. Alright. Nice double into Latios. And what do you click? Back into Thunderous. Whoa, Hawks doesn't care and clicks Rocks. Alright, so now what? Do you just Whirlwind or Rock Slide? If you're Rock Slide, you click Rock Slide. If you're Whirlwind, you click Whirlwind, apparently. And here comes the... Okay, Gustarmi. You just thunder here, right? You have to. Okay, if Clef comes in, you may paralyze it, which is obviously great. And do you risk getting Shadow Ball by Jelly Centaur? What else do you do? So, like, what's... you can go... Politet doesn't seem to have an item. Let's see what it does. I think without knowing the items is very hard to... Oh, it does click Thunder, and Ox reads it perfectly. This is a very good hippo in... I mean, obviously in Insight. Yeah, he sent the ground type on the electric move. That's great. But this is very good because now Sand is up and Starmie loses a lot of effectiveness. Especially if you now outplay this turn and... okay. Androsin on the Clef. Do you ice for the Latios? No, you focus last, read it perfectly, but you miss again, and now you your turn rolls dice. Oh man, this is so sad. Oh, it was your turn. Right, so if you those misses were annoying though, that's for sure. Because if you hit Focus Blast and then your opponent is like, okay, now I can go Latios and you turn on it, you are in a much stronger position. Unfortunately, you missed two, so now like game was already hard. Now it's very hard, like extremely hard, like diamond hard. Okay, eject button Politoed to get Starmie in. I Thunder. I lost. Served absolutely nothing. Oh man. Okay, so when I don't know, I guess he's looking for a crit, and the crit didn't happen. How do you beat Jellison from here? Like Jellison plus Zam, it looks extremely impossible. Okay, it specs Latios, looks like. Scarf Pulse is okay in rain though, so maybe we still don't really know. Okay, so when this is the right course of action. You are making your opponent second guess your sets. The problem is that you're so far behind, I'm not sure it's enough. Okay, Hippo. Mm. Surf the Hippo, that's good. I mean, you just got Zamir, and what does we do? Polytoad is eject button. So it dies. So you have to sacrifice Tandrus and go Scarflatios. If it is Scarflatios and just Draco Meteor. And Ox makes the right play. It is Scarflatios, and this can we. This is game over, right? It's done. Unless you create, you have to Draco Meteor create this one, else it's done. Because if you go you can go Politoed, sure, you win the Weather War, but now what? You already revealed your eject button, so even if you toxic, like this loops back to what I was saying at the start, where even if he reads this one perfectly and toxic the Jellicent walls Keldeo even from like 30% health, and so but it's Scarflatios, so maybe disrespects Keldeo, but that's even worse because you just lose to Zam then. Draco Dodge, did it matter? No, right? I think you need to go for the Draco Meteor crit here. Just go for it, man. It does go for it and doesn't get it. No, this was the right play, 100%. What else do you do if you are so in this is as desperate as it gets? This is just game over, man. Just for wait. Yeah, it's cooked. Alright, Arkeldeo, no, that matters, like, no matter what. At least we get to see the Keldeo set. Maybe, just maybe, it's something insane like Calmine Payapa Bear, but it loses to Jellicent anyway. Yeah. Well played, Ox. Bit fortunate with those Focus Blast misses. Well, it's Focus Blast, so you could say, yeah, well, you have to account for it when you play it. But yeah, I think it was in a very good spot anyway. This was. What was the. Okay, so we know it's Specs Latio, so is this Touchdown? No, right? Because I talked with the guy who helps Fox, and it was life orb indeed. So this team was very, very slow, which I do not recommend. But hey, It worked. So in that double scarf, it looks like Latios and Keldeo. And unfortunately for him, he loaded into a very hard matchup because Jellicent completely walled his main sweeper, which was Scarf Keldeo, and Scarf Latios into Clef Hippos, Skarmory, Def Skarmory. Yeah, no, that's not what you want to see ever. And so that's just, I don't know. The way to win this game is for your Thunderous to go stupid and probably crit the Hippo as well, which didn't happen, which doesn't surprise me. Now, if you read the Ferrothorn turn 1, like if you read the Fire move turn 1 rather, and went Polito turn 1, how will the game shape up? Then Sowin can immediately go back to Ferro, and it's a much different game because you get rocks up, and then it's much. Is it that much different though? Mm, in- you need a lot more plays, but it does change things a little bit. Uh, but I mean, this is all speculation, right? So if you lead Ferrothorn 1 and go Polito, or rather, if you lead Ferrothorn and go Polito turn 1 and Oxide HP fires, then yeah, sure, you're like, okay, cool. You still get to know that it's Specs Latios because damage rolls. But then you go maybe go into Ferrothorn. Okay, this is all fine and cool, but you also have to consider the possibility that your opponent just clicks Recommit your turn 1 because he's built different. It's not even a terrible play if you're Specs Latios to just drop the Draco turn 1 on the Ferro. I mean, it's kind of weird, but it prevents outplays and it still has, like, what, 40%? And you don't super care about what Ferro does. Knock will be annoying. Thunderwave will be super annoying though, so maybe Draco Meteor in turn 1 is not really the cards. Mm. I guess you just expected the Skarmory to come out, which, I mean, it's probably what happens if it's not Fire Latios. You don't trick turn 1, right? Hmm. Nah. Anything else? The play of the game. Hell yeah, for the fans of play of the game. The play of the game was this one, turn 8. Hard deep on the Starmie and Starmie Thunders, and this completely. I mean, this is probably the game winning play, right? Because now Sand is up, and Polito. I mean, now we know it's a jack button, but it forces Owen to tank rocks with Thunderous, and then Ox can just go Clef, right? And Clef would also block Politoed in a sense. Because, yeah. What is Polito going to do on Clef? Okay, you don't know the Polito's item yet, so Specs, Hydro Pump slash Focus Blast could be annoying, but nah. Nah, this was very well played. Great sequence, and yeah, that's about it. The rest of the game was kind of played itself, right? So for both players, not really much to say here, but yeah, fun one still, and congratulations, Ox. A lot of people would not expect to be so win, but hey, it's just how it is. And nothing wrong with the teams. Okay, this team does not have a speed control, which is a bit sus to say the least. Your speed control is life or them. I mean, I guess you don't always need speed control, right? You can just say, "Oh, just position better," but I don't know. You sometimes you just cannot position properly because your opponent outplays you, or you make a bad read or whatever. Yeah. It worked because you can also make the opposite case where your opponent loads double scarf. Their speeds combined are like over 1,000, which is kind of insane if you think about it. Loading double scarf with 500 plus speed, that's very like usually historically, if you run double Scarf, it's because one of the two is like Tyranitar, who is a very slow Pokemon, or Scizor even, for example. But if you do this, I don't know. I guess it works. So again, who am I to judge? Hmm. Well, yeah, that's it really. Thank you for watching and see you next time.